Welcome to M2 Techcast.
Hey, it's Mike Brennan.
And it's Matt Roush.
And he's back.
Back from being under the knife, yes.
That's it.
Thank goodness. Well, we've got a great show lined up for you today. We've got stuff that'll make you smile, stuff that'll scare the crap out of you, and everything in between. We're gonna start off the show with some good stuff from our longtime friend of the show, Kathleen Norton-Schock. She's going to talk to us about her podcast, Diva Tech Talk, which is all about women in technology, and also her other pet passion, the Michigan Council of Women in Technology. So, Kathleen, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Always good to hear your voices, and nice to hear you sounding so chipper, Matt. I'm glad you're doing better.
Yeah. So what's new with Diva? What's the latest with Diva Tech Talk?
Yeah, Diva Tech Talk is rocking right along. By the end of this year, we'll have done 19 podcasts this year, which averages out to be about 1.5 a month. And as you guys know, we're sort of podcasters to go, and this is part of our volunteer work. So I'm always pleased that we even get that many done, considering that this is, certainly not our careers for my co-founder, Nicole Scheffler, and I. Mm-hmm. But this is, we had a really good recent one that came out in between the last time I spoke to you and now. And that was Liz Armbruster, who is the senior vice president of a company called Avalara. She was our episode 93. Liz has got a good story. She was originally pre-med as an undergraduate and graduated with her bachelor's in molecular and cellular biology. But as we like to think sometimes, life had other plans for her. She decided immediately to get married and begin a family, and decided not to go back to pre-med, and wound up working instead in physicians' practices in sales and marketing. But she kept finding herself drawn to the administration side. And then to the application side of physicians. So she migrated over to Zilog, and of course we've all heard of that company. It's a legendary competitor to Intel, and worked there for about 8 years doing quite a few exciting things. Left there as a vice president and moved to a company called Ubiquity, which is hard to say, which is a content distribution technology company that was eventually acquired by Amdocs. And she left there as their vice president of procurement and operations. And frankly, she left there because she was raising her family at this point, was in their teenage years, and she kept finding herself on the road all the time and said, you know what, I need to achieve some balance, which is something we hear a lot from both men and women. As we're all progressing in our careers, we hear this a lot, that it's important, right? So then she moved over to this company called Avalara, which I had never heard of, but was founded in 2004. It's headquartered in Seattle, and it went public in 2018. So it was a startup that continued to be private for 14 years. It's a global company, and it's focused on getting businesses of all sizes all over the world proficient at getting their tax compliance right, which is fascinating, and it does it all in the cloud, right? So she's now their senior vice president, and many of the lessons that she gave in her podcast had to do with, as she calls it, reframing your possibilities, right? Never just sitting one place in life and continuing to look around at what is intellectually satisfying and interesting to you. She also has some great mentoring lessons. Her kids are now in college, and she does a lot of mentoring. So she talks a lot about what she talks about when she's talking to young women or even other middle-aged women who might want to move into a technology field, about taking a look at, and constantly reevaluating their own talents and predilections. And obviously, she's a great champion of balance. Also, inside Avalara, as many companies who are getting smarter about this are doing, there's a very strong push toward diversity and inclusion. And next year, we may podcast Amelia Ransom, also from Avalara, who is charged with doing nothing but making sure that the company continues to stay cutting edge in terms of diversity and inclusion so they can continue to be profitable. So Liz is the champion of the women of Avalara's employee resource group, which, again, if you know anything about DI, that is a big movement inside most companies. Cisco started it years ago. Many bigger companies like Salesforce have had ERGs for years. But it's important that companies the size of Avalara do that too. So she is the champion for women of Avalara, and they sit on every continent because it's a global company and talk about women's issues. So that was a really good episode. It went out just before Thanksgiving. And then this coming week, we'll be doing Janine Heck, who is the vice president of artificial intelligence products for a little company called Comcast. And Janine, I did that particular podcast, and I loved meeting Janine. She got her bachelor's in engineering from the University of Penn, which of course also houses Wharton. So in her undergraduate years, she had the benefit of not only getting a technology-oriented undergraduate degree, but she was able to take general business courses at the Wharton campus inside the University of Penn. And then she moved to New York and worked for 6 years at a company called Gemini Systems, which was acquired by Essex Tech about 4 or 5 years ago, working exclusively on Wall Street, exclusively serving the New York Stock Exchange, first as a programmer, then as a business analyst. And she did some really interesting revolutionary things in those days, and it would have been revolutionary in the early 2000s. She and her team created a Java-based visual system that allowed for oversight for trading anomalies. And considering that most traders are human beings, right, back in those days, there wasn't as much oversight as there would be now. But she found that she wasn't that interested in the finance world, so she jumped back into school, went to Columbia for her MBA, and got 2 internships, one at Google, which was okay, but the other one at NBC. And when she went to NBC, well, she kept wanting to go back into the software side, and she actually was in marketing. Under her internship, she did find her niche, which is streaming media companies. And so she started to make some strong, very focused decisions. And one was that she wanted to work in a company like that. And so she found Comcast many years ago now, like 14 years ago. And the reason she chose Comcast was twofold. One, because it's headquartered in Philadelphia, and she wanted to go back toward her family. But probably more importantly, she characterizes Comcast as, of all the media companies, having what she calls the most humble environment. In fact, she describes it in the podcast as, we're just a whole bunch of working stiffs, trying to do the right things for our customers. We don't have all of this angst. There isn't that much arrogance. And that's what she was finding among the other media companies, at least at that point in her life. So she went on board with Comcast, and it went straight up through the ranks and is now their vice president of artificial intelligence. And the one thing that is a little bit of a downer for her occasionally is that she runs a team of 70 people. She loves that. She loves running the team. She loves sharing her experience. She loves learning from what she calls some brilliant people. But there are days when she has to control herself because she would like to jump in, right, and go hands-on to projects. And instead, as you know, when you lead teams that lead other teams, you need to often do hands-off and do mentoring. She's raising 4 children at the same time she's doing all of these things. And Comcast themselves seem to be doing some very exciting things. She gave us some hints about that in the podcast, what they're doing in the whole AI side. And on the side, besides raising the 4 children and running artificial intelligence for Comcast and this team of people who are, again, all over the world, because Comcast itself is global, she's also doing mentoring for technology students at 2 high schools, one of whom was her own alma mater, St. Hubert's in Philly. So that was a really cool podcast, and that'll be coming out the end of this week, so look for it. And then finally, at the end of the year, Nicole and I always do a podcast, just one a year, where it's just the 2 of us on the podcast. And I think we'll probably publish this the first week of January. But what we typically do, and I think this will not change this year, is we look back on the 18 to 19 podcasts we did during the year and say, okay, here are the trends that we see. Here are the biggest themes that seem to be common to all of these very bright women at all ages and stages of their careers. And then because Nicole is doing a lot of strategy planning for Cisco, which is her company, and because, of course, I come out of years ago a think tank environment and have run some companies and I'm always trying to look at the future, we will probably also do our own little Diva Tech Talk predictions for 2020. That will be a combination of what we see as the top 5 or 6 hot technologies and business trends and how that will affect women, right? Actually, everyone, but women in particular. So we'll be weaving that together with women in tech. So that's kind of what's going on with Diva Tech Talk. Would you guys like me to segue over to Michigan Council of Women in Technology?
Yep, we've got about 3 or 4 minutes left in this segment. 3, I'm told.
3.
Okay, so MCWT, as usual, is very busy. We did a physical move from Epitech, where they were housing the MCWT office, to Technosoft. Both of them are diamond sponsors of MCWT, and they've given us office space at Technosoft, which is in Southfield. And that's pretty exciting, but it takes some time, of course, to do that move. We raised $500,000 from the November MCWT ball. And as you know, we do many, many, many programs during the year. Then that will be part of what will pay for those. We have a website contest in full swing right now for 300 middle school and high school girls and about 50 teams. The finals for that website contest will be on January 11th, and sponsors for the website contest are Ally Bank, Amerisure, and Accenture. And as I think I've mentioned to you guys before, if you go into programs on the MCWT website, we also have some great tools to help other young girls do website programming. And then finally, our university scholarship program is also in full swing. As you know, we've given away $1.3 million in scholarships since 2006. And so no applications are open for scholarships for the 2020-2021 university season. They opened October 1st, but the ability to apply runs through January 31st. So anybody wants to go to our website, www.mcwt.org, go under university, and you can go to that page and all of the requirements. You just need to live in state and be pursuing a tech degree either on a university level or a postgraduate level. And you are probably eligible if you have a GPA of 3.0 and above and you are a woman.
Okay.
So our websites are Diva Tech Talk. It's www.divatechtalk.com. We're also on Facebook and Twitter. And for MCWT, it's www.mcwt.org.
Okay.
All right, where are those website finals going to be?
This year,
January
I don't
11th.
know. Last year, I think they were at Blue Cross Blue Shield. They may be at Ally. But I'll probably be on your program, I would think, right beforehand, or I can get you guys a link.
Yeah.
Because the finals, they are open to the public. Lots of parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles come to see their girls in action. And, of course, we have our judges from not only our those 3 sponsors, but many of our other. We have 110 sponsors right now for MCWT, right? So maybe 20 of those companies will have judges at the event. So I'm not sure exactly. It'll be someplace in Southeast Michigan, and I'm not sure that we've chosen it yet, but I'll certainly let you know.
All right. Once again, that's mcwt.org and divatechtalk.com, correct? Kathleen? Oh, I think we just lost Kathleen. Well, anyway, Kathleen Norton-Schock with Diva Tech Talk and the Michigan Council of Women in Technology. It's been great to have you on the show. We will talk to you again next month. We'll be right back in a moment with another segment of the M Squared Techcast.
You've been doing it.
Yeah, well, it's been a few weeks. What can I say?
Out of practice.
Yeah, right. For right now, it's Matt Roush.
And Mike Brennan.
And you're listening to the M Squared Techcast at Podcast Detroit.
Traditional four-year students love Lawrence Technological University's thriving campus life. But LTU has always met non-traditional students' needs too. Lawrence Tech offers over 100 degree and certificate programs that can get adult students started or back on track. And most of our classes are conveniently offered evenings at our beautiful Southfield campus or online, so you can balance your social, family, and work life even while you power up your career. Lawrence Tech, where Blue Devils dare.